BiomedRx Optimum Woman is the only woman's high-potency full-spectrum multiple vitamin supplement to contain 56 nutrients, including those most important for today's woman, such as calcium for bone health, iron for healthy red blood cells, beta-carotene, biotin for nail and hair health, gamma-linoleic acid from evening primrose oil, octasanol, grapeseed extract, a potent antioxidant important for maintaining capillary strength, and vegetarian digestive enzyme. Visit www.biomedrxsupplements.com.
Gold label quality BiomedRx CBD oil is made from organic hemp that is locally grown, glyphosate-free, gluten-free, non-GMO, homogenized, third-party tested, and CO2 extracted. Visit www.biomedrxcbd.com.
Hi, this is Devin Lockett, the president of JobSite Route. As the son of a general contractor, I know how difficult it can be to get good food on the job site. And letting your construction workers leave the job site to buy lunch just takes valuable time away from them being on the site. I've developed an app and a program that will bring a steady stream of food trucks to your job sites every month for the low price of only $100 per month per site. That comes up to about $3 per day to have a steady stream of food trucks coming to your job sites all day, every working day. You can also contact the food trucks ahead of time and pre-order your food from the menu on our app. This saves valuable time for your construction workers and for you. It also sends a variety of delicious food served on Southern California food trucks to your job sites all day. When you think about it, it only makes sense to join the JobSite Route Network.
this in here. Okay. Make sure my mic is up. Mike, all right. Yes. Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Thank you for your patience. Just a little bit of technical difficulty there. In fact, I think I might go and check my audio levels just to make sure that I'm coming through fine. There we go. So, yeah, thank you. Sorry about the feedback. This morning I want to go over this video about Marc Lamont Hill and, having a conversation with Judge Joe Brown about the media portrayal of Bill Cosby. I think it's very interesting, and I think it actually reflects what's happening in our time right now, in our culture, and in society in general, and the battles that are going on between the generations, actually. BiomedRx, can I help? Opening? Yes, you want the CBD? No, we don't have any THC. Sorry about that. Hey, business calls. Business always calls. While I'm talking about it, as you can see on the bottom of the screen earlier, get yourself some BiomedRx CBD. Visit BiomedRxCBD.com and pick up some gold label BiomedRx CBD. Anyway, we're just going to get right into this interview because, like I said, I'm not taking any sides right now. You will understand as time goes on what my position is on the subjects at hand. But this is a very poignant conversation that's going on, a very poignant discussion, very relevant for today's time. I think it's reflective of the old guard and the new guard, and the new guard, which is actually the old guard, the return of black masculinity and the return of black patriarchy and the recognition of the significance thereof among black men in society, and different and conflicting interpretations on how we are or should be interacting with ourselves and with each other, in this time that we're living in. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to jump right into this video. Let me just make sure once again that that my levels are nice and mellow and copacetic. Okay. So let's get started.
Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We are here talking once again about the case of Bill Cosby. As you know, he was released to most people's surprise yesterday, walking out of a Pennsylvania state prison because of a very interesting development in his case. And yesterday, many celebrities chimed in on social media. One of TV's most well-known judges, Judge Joe Brown, was one of those people who called out the way that mainstream media had been covering the story. Hours ago, he tweeted, and to be clear, much of this was in response to something I wrote, but he said, anyone who was knowledgeable of American law would have expected and predicted the outcome of the Cosby appeal. Mainstream media in Hollywood incite public disorder by lying to the people about the law and encouraging mob rule. Hollywood reacts to Bill Cosby release with shock. Here to discuss his recent comments, joining me now is Judge Joe Brown. Judge, thank you for joining me. Why do you say that mainstream media encourages mob rule?
I've talked to 43 lawyers around the country, 17 judges, and I haven't found one that was shocked by the verdict. Most saw the same thing that I did from day one. This never should have gone to trial. It's a travesty. It's a violation of due process and American law. It is part of this mess that mainstream media is trying to feed into the heads of the citizenry and poison them by saying that their emotions and their feelings are supposed to have paramountcy over what happens within the law. That's not the way it goes. I get people who never even took what they should have gotten in the 4th and 5th grade get to talking about how somebody gonna disprove what these women accuse Dr. Cosby of. And the truth of the matter is you don't have to. They have to prove that what they claim is true, not the other way around. That's American law. I see too much of this show up on the courthouse, voice your opinion, and get the courts to yield to what you believe. That's not the way the law works. That's called mob rule, mob justice. And if you want a more egregious exemplar, take what happened to Emmett Till and every other black man that's been lynched in the history of this country because somebody got emotional and decided to suborn the law, go around it, and do what their emotions drove them to do. So that is the way things ought to be. Law separates us from the animals, and we can't have this disregard of the law. I want to commend this Howard Dean for being forthright enough to speak out on what the reality is, and I would suggest that they need to strengthen the breadth requirements at Howard University so I don't see such ignorance coming out of this profoundly historic black university. My father went there way back in the 40s.
Well, there's two things going on at once, though, Judge.
That I have heard come out of that place lately.
Now, we're going to pause here for a minute because I think this is a good pause point, okay? The judge just made some very, very solid points about the rule of law. And of course, the judge, with many years of experience on the bench and the permanent designation as judge, also knows the law, understands the law well enough, understands the court system well enough to know what he's talking about. Now, you can see the look here on Marc Lamont Hill's face. And, you know, he's seething. I mean, he's actually got hatred in his eyes. And he's trying to poise himself to come back with the feels before reals. He's trying to come back with the irrational arguments of the left or the irrational arguments based in emotionalism. So he's... Watch this pivot. All right, just basically keep watching.
And
so I think there's two things happening at once.
Justice, they are too.
So Judge, I think there's two things happening at once here. And I think on the one hand, many of us are legitimately aware, and myself included, that the criminal legal system doesn't give equal outcomes to everybody, that black folk catch the worst end of this, that black men, when it comes to incarceration, get the absolute worst end of this. And the Bill Cosby case is an example of a prosecutor who was dishonest. Bill Cosby absolutely, if he's told that you won't be prosecuted for giving this deposition and then he gets prosecuted, that is a violation of his rights and that is a violation of due process.
Of course it is.
On the other hand,
due process.
but on the, right. But hold on, let me finish this point, Judge.
Going forward should be disciplined.
So there's that, but then there's the other question that people. So then there's this other question that people though have, Judge, which is a legal question. Which is not a legal question. I think those two things, to some extent, are getting mixed up. And the non-legal question is about whether or not Bill Cosby actually did harm. Legally, you can say he's not guilty because the not guilty stands.
He didn't do anything. American law, there is an absolute presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt using due process of law. If there was no due process of law, that presumption of innocence does not remove itself, and there is
even
no
superheroes and supermodels need a daily dose of nutrients to help make life more super. BiomedRx Supplements is making it easy to get exactly what you need. From kids to seniors, they've got something for everyone. Pretty cool, right? Check out their products at BiomedRxSupplements.com.
Yes, I monetize my own videos, and my own videos come with my own commercials. So luckily I caught that one time. We're going to pick up back where we left off before the commercial.
American law, There is an absolute presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt using due process of law. If there was no due process of law, that presumption of innocence does not remove itself, and there is no valid conviction. If there is no valid conviction, that presumption of innocence stands as a rock for the defendant. It is to keep the government from acting in a dishonest fashion and using its powers for persecution. So Dr. Cosby
so I think we're on the same page with that.
Found guilty through due process. He hasn't done anything. So under American law, the accusations are just that. They carry no weight other than accusations, and they must be proven using due process beyond a reasonable doubt. If they have not been, then they're essentially worthless, just so much talk.
So I think we're on the same page. So I think we're on the same page with regard to the law. I think part of the challenge, and I sent out a tweet last night that you responded to. I'm going to pull it up. It says, I said, Bill Cosby is not innocent. He has not been exonerated. His release means that Cosby, a sexual predator, was incarcerated within a criminal legal system that has as little regard for its own rules and procedures as does Cosby for his victims. And you responded, you said,
he hasn't had any. Law is a baseless accusation. It has no weight.
So under the law, I think we're on the same page again. But part of the problem
is in the 4th and 5th grade, not law school. American law means when somebody makes an accusation, that's all it is. It has no weight. If there's probable cause, you have somebody answer the complaint. But if you cannot find someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they have done nothing. They walk out of there with their presumption of innocence intact. How clear can that be? There is nothing to answer.
I think that
he had a right to remain.
I think that part is clear. No, I think that part's clear, Judge. Let me move the conversation forward.
The proof in his guilt. It did not. So he stands.
Right. So I guess what I want to do is just move the conversation up a little bit. I think you and I agree that legally he's not guilty, that legally he doesn't have any burden of proof. The state does, and it hasn't met that. Legally, his rights were violated. We're on the same page about that. I'm saying the legal question to me is rock solid. But I think what was happening yesterday was people were conflating those two things. They were acting as if because the state didn't meet its burden and because he was released based on the fact that he didn't get due process, his due process rights were violated, that was somehow proof of the belief that many people had that Cosby was actually not just legally not guilty, but actually didn't do anything at the moral and ethical level. And hold on 1 second. I just want to place.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, let me place the question to you. So I guess what I'm saying is, can we hold space for two ideas at the same time? Can someone under the eyes of the law be completely not guilty, and at the same time, can we have a public conversation? Because I know you talk about culture, you talk about our community, you talk about values. Can we also talk about the fact that someone can be doing great harm and even be a predator at the same time that legally they're all the things you just said?
No. Because the law presumes them innocent until you prove them guilty.
Thank you.
It is a specious thing. That's part of this new paradigm where everybody gets a trophy, a participation ribbon. Nobody's feelings get hurt. Freedom of speech gets restricted if somebody feels uncomfortable or undelighted by what is being said. That's not our reality.
That is the point right there. Thank you, Judge Joe Brown. That is the point. And you can see the look on Marc Lamont Hill's face where he actually looks like he has been physically assaulted. This is the point where the conversation pivots and Marc Lamont Hill starts to take it very personally. And of course, like a leftist, he starts to get into his emotions.
So let me ask you a question. When George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin and the jury found him not guilty, do you feel that the black community should not have continued to express outrage and call George Zimmerman a killer because under the law he was innocent?
They should express outrage with themselves for lacking such political influence in the selection of the district attorney or in the even weight assigned to them. See, the rules are the same. But from my perspective, I think of all the black folk that have called me over the last 35 of jury service, all of the black folk that voted a handout where you've got a racist idiot on that handout for judge and they don't even pay attention to who's on the ballot. I think of all of the black folk who don't go out and vote for sheriff or effectively for mayor or for the district attorney and complain about it. See, when you have an opportunity to do something about it, do it. And see, most of the people that are off in the penitentiaries are not in there for playing Robin Hood. They rob from their neighbors, burglarize their neighbors, kill their neighbors, rape their neighbors, sold poison to their neighbors. And the other thing is, it's not guns. It's not any excuse. It's we have got a lack of manhood and masculinity in our neighborhoods. See, masculinity is the imposition of a set of behavioral standards on a boy. So when the boy grows into a man, he has some things he has to do that he cannot get away with, that he is compelled to look to, making where he lives a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics. He is a man of public peace, dignity, and order, who is a man of peace, who can be a brave and courageous man when necessary.
That is called masculine responsibility, and Marc Lamont Hill does not know anything about that. Marc Lamont Hill is of the paradigm that believes that the ideal home for black children, including black boys and especially black boys, is a single mother household. So when he has a black man speaking to him in this paternalistic fashion, in this fatherly way, this fatherly fashion, and actually telling something that he needs to learn personally, he needs to learn from this personally. Now he really goes on the defensive, offensive. You decide. You decide.
See, we have to start taking
Judge, let me pause you for a minute.
back.
We're going to take a... Judge, I want to hear more about that, Judge. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break and bring you right back. I'm going to push you on some of those things as well. Stay with me. We got more Black News Tonight coming up right after this. Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We're talking Bill Cosby and the aftermath of his case. I'm here with Judge Joe Brown. Judge, again, early in the conversation, we sort of stipulated to the legal parts of this, and we both agree that everyone deserves the right to due process, and no one should be sitting in prison or jail for something that they either didn't do or if their rights are violated, or both. But you've also raised this interesting question that I think is worth unpacking a bit, and that's about ethics and morality within the black community and holding each other accountable and talking about manhood and masculinity. If we, again, assuming Bill Cosby doesn't take the legal stuff off the table, if we look at the depositions, the very thing that got him ultimately, the thing that ultimately got him locked up, and those depositions, and he's talking about the various women he had sex with giving them alcohol and pills, whether it's Quaaludes or Benadryl. If you look at the dozens of women who come forward and accuse him, is there room to say, look, Bill Cosby can come home because the prosecutor was wrong, but Bill Cosby also has to be accountable for what he represents and for acts of predator-like behavior?
What about these women being accountable for their own behavior? They were groupies. Well, sex, drugs, rock and roll, sex, drugs, rap, sex, drugs, baseball, football, basketball, movies, television.
Now, let's tell the truth. I believe, I would wager to say that Marc Lamont Hill, at some point in his career, has benefited sexually through the attention sexually of whoever or whatever gender type of person he is sexually interested in as a result of his position, as a result of his fame, because he's famous. All right?
See,
yeah, but now I'm talking about Bill Cosby.
We forgot what that term meant. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. The bimbos come to the party, they hang out, they get drunk, they snort lines of blow, and they have a good time. They use the hall closets to give head, the bathrooms to get down, and you go in to get your coat off of the bed, and they're laying on top of it doing somebody. See, that's what that's about. So,
Yeah, but
let's not
it has to be
sanctimonious
consensual,
25,
though.
30, 40, 50 years after something was in big time style. When this stuff started out, the sexual revolution was going on. And a lot of women got into it deeply.
Okay, but so there's two things you raised.
The
But
point
first,
is,
let's talk about Bill Cosby. We can talk about the women, but let's talk about Bill Cosby.
You see, now he's saying, oh, well, it has to be consensual. He's conflating a sexually liberated environment and time. This is what I'm trying to get people to understand. It is a very slippery slope when you start judging yesterday's behavior, especially from several.
Homogenized, third-party tested, and CO2 extracted. Visit www.biomedrxcbd.com.
Anyway, it is a very, like as I was saying, it is a very slippery slope when you start to judge the behavior that occurred even 1 decade ago. Look what happened with Kevin Hart, right? Those were tweets he made maybe 10 or 12 years ago. But behavior that took place back in the pre-AIDS period, where people were still having unprotected sex, and the worst thing that could happen was maybe syphilis or chlamydia or pregnancy. And you can't judge, what took place back then by today's standards. Marc Lamont Hill is continually trying to imply that Bill Cosby took advantage of women or victims against their will, that he drugged people against their will and had sex with them against their will. And that is really not factually correct. That's actually deliberately disingenuous. And I'm glad you just continue to watch.
Cosby. Let's talk about Bill Cosby for a second, because that's the person we're talking about. My question was, is there room to what did he do? Well, according to the deposition, he gave women pills, and in one deposition, he specifically said he didn't know whether. Let me finish.
He didn't take advantage of them. Look at that interview Whoopi Goldberg did with that model Johnson. Whoopi got all. Said, wait a minute, you're trying to tell me that
hold on, Judge, let me ask the question.
He found out you were high, he called the cab, took the elevator down with you, put you in the cab, paid your fare, tipped the man, and sent you home because you were high? So what did he do?
So in one deposition, Judge, in one deposition specifically, when he was asked the question, was he sure that the woman was sober enough to consent? He said, I don't know. But there's a bigger question here: is if someone willingly takes pills and becomes high and drunk, can they legally consent?
Sometimes you can. Used to be you could. They had a change in there back 25 years ago when they were saying no, you can't. But before that, basically you could. That's why they told you.
But we're talking about the law. So then, Judge, again, since you say we should appeal to the law, if the law says that you can't be
intoxication where you did something to them they didn't consent to. See, that's when that law started changing from you got yourself drunk, you're responsible, to know the bartender's responsible because he lets you get drunk. That's when that change started coming about.
Bill Cosby's admitting to giving women alcohol and pills for the purpose of having sex, and if by the law you can't consent if you're drunk or high.
Go out to dinner or you have a party or something. So
but that's not the same. That's irrelevant, Judge.
Because they do something they would have done anyway. A whole lot of them, back in the years,
that's sexual assault, Judge.
Particularly qualities. They did that a lot. I had a lot of female clients I had to get out of messes because they had a fondness for qualities. They're not cool.
Yeah, but it's okay to take.
Don't you bear any responsibility for this, especially if you keep going back?
So, Judge, let me. I want to lay this out plainly, and I'll give you a chance to respond. I'll even give you the last word. If you give someone drugs and alcohol, even if they want to take the drugs and alcohol, if they get to a point where they are inebriated, where they are high or drunk, you cannot have sex with them. It is not sex, it becomes rape. And even
that's only the law in certain states. That's only the law in certain states. It's not for every state. And it goes into the same philosophy. It goes
Let
into
me
the same
finish and then I'll give you
thing.
the
I
last
didn't
word.
know I was gonna get that drunk, so it ain't my fault I got a DUI and kill somebody. How you think that's gonna flow?
Right, but the difference is the drunk
Plus, you
person has
have
responsibility to
people on
not.
the East Coast who want
The
a new
drunk person has the
category of
responsibility
felony
not to
rape.
get into the
It's
car,
called rape
but
by
the drunk person
seduction.
does not have a
In other words,
responsibility
you take a
not to give
woman
the
out,
responsibility.
and you decide to
If
have
we're
a
talking
good
about
meal,
responsibility.
linen,
talking
candlelight,
about
wine,
responsibility-
dine. You go for a walk in the park, my place or yours. Get over there, kissy, kissy, poo, seduction, clothes come off. Everybody has a good time. This crowd wants that to be called
Everybody
felony
isn't having a
rape
good
by
time. One person's
seduction.
being assaulted. Right, but what I'm saying, Judge,
Nobody,
and I gotta run.
see, that's the point. He never admitted to what he did, was accused of, which is
How many people in your court
unlawful.
admitted to what they did
All
that
he
were
did
guilty?
was they asked
You said
for it, I supplied it. They wanted it.
Okay, this
That's
is
like
just
put some
flat out rape
candles
at
on and
this
some incense when we do it. Let's go out and have
No,
a
it's-
fine meal. Some Pinot Noir,
Giving some- this is
Cabernet
disgusting.
Sauvignon.
Giving
to
somebody-
go with the prime rib and the lobster. And then we, after we leave the 5-star restaurant, we got a nice walk in the park.
This honestly is, with all due respect, is the most disturbing interview I've ever had in my life.
No, but see,
The idea
you
that
are
we're-
into this thing where everybody's got to be protected. This society does not work when the society's obligation is to protect somebody from being stupid.
Right.
You protect somebody's
No,
rights
to protect somebody from being
to
raped, but we gotta
exercise
go,
their
Judge Brown.
discretion
We can have a
appropriately.
conversation,
But you
I
can't
gotta run to
protect them
commercial
from
break. I'm way
themselves.
past commercial
Just
break.
like you can't protect
I'm-
somebody from liability for killing someone in a fatal DUI because the bartender didn't stop
I got
serving
you,
them
Judge.
when they kept asking.
Unfortunately, I gotta run. We're way past commercial break. I know you understand that. Thank you for joining the show. Let us know what you're thinking. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at BNC News. Visit the website bnc.tv. Coming up next.
All right. So what do y'all think, right? Shout out, give me a little something in the comments. Get the likes up. Give me a little something in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. I don't know. Personally, what I see here is a battle between generations, a battle between cultures, and a battle between cultural paradigms. Whether or not, every encounter that Mr. Cosby had, especially back in the party and drug days, was on a completely moral basis, is, kind of muddy at best, right? It's questionable at best, and I wouldn't even be leaning on the moral side of that argument. I would be leaning on the highly immoral side. But what I would suppose is that it was a mutually consensual thing that was going on back in the day, because I was alive back in that time in history as well. And I do understand, the sexual revolution and how things were in the 70s and how free people were sexually. And I also understand the climate of Hollywood. I know Hollywood very well, and I understand the way things are done in Hollywood parties today as we speak. Okay? So there's a lot going on here. And I just want to thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to be going live on my other Devin Lockett channel as well as BiomedRx TV later on today. Thanks a lot and peace out. Have a great day.
Gold label quality BiomedRx CBD oil is made from organic hemp that is locally grown, glyphosate free, gluten free, non-GMO, homogenized, third-party tested, and CO2 extracted. Visit www.biomedrxcbd.com.
BiomedRx Optimum Woman is the only woman's high-potency full-spectrum multiple vitamin supplement to contain 56 nutrients, including those most important for today's woman, such as calcium for bone health, iron for healthy red blood cells, beta-carotene, biotin for nail and hair health, gamma-linoleic acid from evening primrose oil, octasanol, grapeseed extract, a potent antioxidant important for maintaining capillary strength, and vegetarian digestive enzymes. Visit www.biomedrxsupplements.com.